Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And in this video, I'd like to discuss Nigel Farage's behaviour on Remembrance Sunday yesterday at the Cenotaph. But talk about his attitude to sovereignty. Because it's not at all what he says it is. In fact, it's provably the opposite. But first, for daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So yesterday, for those who don't know, Remembrance Sunday, political leaders, various political leaders, not all, lay a wreath at the Cenotaph. And Nigel Farage complained that he wasn't allowed to lay one. Now, the rules state that if you are the leader of a political party with at least 6 MPs, you get to lay a wreath. So he was 1 MP off doing that. But he decided to complain. He complained, for example, that the DUP were laying a wreath and they have 5 MPs just like he does. However, there's another little rule to try and encourage more inclusion, although not as much as there should be for the nations around the UK, that the 2 largest parties of devolved nations also lay a wreath. Now, I see no reason why it shouldn't be the largest from Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland, but it's not. So the DUP, because Sinn Féin never take their seats, the DUP are always the largest representative for Northern Ireland. They lay a wreath. The SNP and Plaid have an arrangement between each other that they take it in turns. Again, I see no reason why they both should not do that. But Nigel Farage, falls foul of those rules, and yet he's complained about it. And the thing is, he complained that he wasn't getting to lay a wreath. Then he was told, well, you ain't got enough MPs. Well, they haven't either. So he complained about that. Then it was explained to him. They're still complaining about it, even though they've had it explained to them. And do you know what Nigel Farage has got the nerve to say? I'm not really complaining. It's other people who've been complaining. Mate, you have been complaining from dusk till dawn. Anyway, never mind that. The point was, it's like, so in a few years' time, I'm thinking to myself, so Reform UK want to build. Now, there's lots of things coming. I talked about, something earlier today, for example. Reform UK may well build as a party, or they may not. They may go into decline. There's lots of factors that will be at play in the next few years that will have a material impact, I think, on Reform UK's success or not. But it is possible that at the next election, Reform UK do even better than they did this year. And at the following, Remembrance Sunday 2029, Nigel Farage may well be able to lay a wreath at the Cenotaph, make the day all about him for those reasons, and presumably with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth as he does so, balancing his pint in his pocket as he bends down to lay the wreath before picking it back out again. But anyway, it got me to thinking, so that will be allowed. I won't be able to complain about it, but he is utterly unfit to lay a wreath at the Cenotaph. And the reason is because he says he's a defender of sovereignty, but he is actually an attacker. We say things like in the Second World War, remember Sunday's, of course, not just about the Second World War, but we often say, Nigel, he goes on about the Second World War all the time, but at the time he would have been on the other side. We had people in this country who were arguing for the other side. He would have been. And we know this for a fact. If we think about what the Second World War was about, the First World War was just a mess. It wasn't. There's no pride in being on anyone's side in the First World War. But in the Second World War, one country tried to remove the sovereignty of multiple other countries, and then a group of allies decided that they were wanting to stop that, and they fought against Germany to return the sovereignty of the countries who had it stolen and to defend the sovereignties of those who still retained it. So in Europe, at least, it was all very messy in Asia, but in Europe, it was a war to protect sovereignty. And that is what Nigel Farage often goes on about when he's talking about veterans. And yet, look at the modern day equivalent, because we have war in Europe again. And what is that war about? Russia has invaded Ukraine. Ukraine did not threaten it. Russia invaded Ukraine specifically to remove Ukraine's sovereignty. And Ukraine is fighting back. And we are supporting them. I wish more countries in Europe, including the UK, were actively fighting with them openly. But Ukraine and its allies are trying to defend Ukraine's sovereignty. So there is, in the modern age, a fight for sovereignty, because that's what the war is ultimately about. It's about a fight for sovereignty. And Nigel Farage is on the side of the ones trying to remove sovereignty. He has argued that Ukraine should cede territory to Russia. In other words, he's argued that a part of Europe should give up its sovereignty. And that's what makes him totally unfit. That is why he will garner no sympathy at all from most people for the fact that he is not able to lay a wreath, because he has absolutely no respect for the fact that what we mostly associate with Remembrance Sunday, as I say, it covers 2 world wars and it covers the sacrifices made by veterans since as well. But chiefly what most people think of is the Second World War, because we actually, arguably with the good guys there, we actually fought to protect the sovereignty of countries that were not just us. We were not directly threatened ourselves. We fought to protect the sovereignty of others. And Nigel Farage actually campaigns for countries to be allowed to invade other countries to take their sovereignty away from them. But there we are anyway, just a few thoughts I had. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.